before Congress lifted the combat exclusion law that barred women from being assigned to combat duties. Mm-hmm. But you were kind of in a combat role. Mm-hmm. And I read that this almost prevented your crew from receiving the air medal for the time over there.
Oh yeah.
Correct?
Oh yeah. It's one of those moments in history that you can't believe happened that way, but there I was, as we aviators like to say, there I was. Yeah. It was my first deployment. So literally the night that the war started, the night the shooting started over Baghdad, I was in the air and we were doing a night navigation check ride. So I was actually on a check ride toward the end of the program when the shooting started. So we knew, I mean, you're on a check ride, you're about to finish the program, and now there's a war. So we pretty much knew that we were going to be going over there, quote unquote, at some point. But what actually ended up happening is the follow-on school where you actually train on the KC-135, once we select our assignments, they shut the school down so they could take all the pilots and navigators who were there and boom operators and bring them back to operational units and deploy them. So instead of going straight into the training, we actually had a 6-month, twiddling our thumbs, find another assignment part of our career after flight training. So that was a bummer. Yeah. But then after that, they open it up. And so then, you do that training, get onto your first unit. And then they trained us really fast with the last things we needed to do to be deployable, chem gear, all of that. And then poof, off we go to Riyadh. And my crew was actually the third crew in theater when we started Operation Southern Watch. Okay. If you remember, this is a time after the war when Saddam Hussein still had his MiGs and he was still launching helicopters and other
doing provocative things with his.
Yeah, exactly. Like genocidal, not good things, right? Some of those images from back then are still so haunting to me of what was happening. Yeah. So we're the third ones in, and so what that meant was we had to keep the CAP, the Combat Air Patrol, airborne at all times. And so we would literally, with these 3 crews, and then we got our 4th crew a week later, we were flying 1, 2, 3 times a day. Sometimes just an hour, like go up with the gas, go straight into the area, everybody gets gas and come back down again. Other days were longer, but they were all O1 sorties right over Baghdad. And yeah, we would get chased by MiGs daily. AWACS would tell us to get out of there. We'd retrograde and leave. So wow. Imagine that for your first deployment, as I think I had just become a first lieutenant. And what I didn't know, I mean, what am I doing? Right? I'm just training and I'm training and I'm training, and now I'm doing the thing they trained me to do. So how surprised was my crew when the colonel put in, months later, we'd already flown the minimum sorties to be considered for air medal, and they sent the package to the Pentagon. The package, 4 packages came back, 3 of them with air medals, all male crews. Our package came back and it literally said that we cannot receive an air medal because there's a female on the crew.
Wow.
And I tell you this, I still cannot even believe it happened this way, but it did. And so, like, what is everybody supposed to think at that point, right? I'm like, wait, am I not supposed to be here?
Hold up.
Did you guys send the wrong person? Like, why did you trade me and send me here? Now you can't admit that I'm here and that I'm doing the work, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
How did that get mitigated? How did that go? Hey, you know what? What's going on here? How did that finally come? How'd you finally get the medal?
Yeah, well, we had to kind of, we were in shock a little bit because like imagine the guys on my crew. What?
Well, yeah.
I mean, like, how much do they want to fly with a woman now, right? So we went, we're like looking at the colonel, like, are you kidding? And he's like, I'm going to appeal this. This is ridiculous. And
good.
And I knew we had combat exclusion. I tried to get an F-15 out of training. I literally asked for it on tracking night. I'm like, yes, I'm third. I was third in the class. So, I'm requesting an F-15 E2 Strike Eagle to Luke Air Force Base. And they're like, we can't do that. So no, I wanted that. But so the way it got mitigated, thank goodness, the colonel appealed, sent the package back. And by then we'd already flown another 10, 15 one sorties. So like, okay, so instead of 37, now we're up to almost 50, right? So he sent the package back and they reconsidered. And then months later, after we went home, we got our air medal mailed to us at Fairchild. So we didn't get the in-field recognition ceremony like everybody else. We kind of quietly got it over there, which is, we got it, but it was weird.
It's still a slight.
Yep.
That was what that was mid 90s.
So combat exclusion was lifted the spring of 1993. And this deployment that I'm talking about took place in the previous summer.